everyone, and welcome to the Home Church podcast. Here at Home Church, we believe that everyone needs Jesus and everyone needs a home. So we hope that you'll open your hearts and your mind as you hear the message today.
Welcome to our podcast. Today I'm here with my beautiful wife, Becca.
Hello.
And we're celebrating 10 years of ministry this fall. And so we've just been having some podcasts, just talking about our life, how we started in ministry and didn't really want to start in ministry, but ended up starting in ministry because of God's call in our life, and how 10 years, which doesn't seem like long, but is really quite a long time.
Yeah, it is.
The average minister today is less than 18 months in one place. And so to be 10 years, we're going to celebrate that.
Yeah, we are.
And celebrate all the people that have come on this journey with us.
Right.
And thank you all. Those of you that have been with us, just thank you all for just your faithfulness. And that's for not just our home church family in Red Deer, but that's our home church family across Alberta and all our locations and across the world in 15 different countries. Thank you just for serving Jesus with us, no matter where you are. And we're so thankful for you and the gifts that you bring to our church. And for a few minutes today, we just thought we would just talk about how when you give God everything, it really is an everything thing to give him everything. And we have a few examples of that, of just what our life looks like. And my wife is looking at me with the funniest face right now. I'm like, what did you just say? But really, when you give God everything, like those first moments when we surrendered to God and we said yes to leading the church, you don't really know what you're saying yes to.
You don't have a clue.
But it really is, you really do lay down everything to serve God. And for us, there's a few times that looked pretty crazy. I remember when we first started leading the church, and I remember first Sunday there was about 380 people in church, and we had a bunch of small groups, and I just decided, it was like right in that first year, I'm going to go to every small group in the whole church, everyone. And I think there was like 35 small groups or something at the time. And I went to every small group in
crazy.
a month's time.
You're crazy.
It was crazy.
You didn't have a night off.
I didn't have a night off.
Like a month.
I was working so hard, working all day, working all night.
Yep.
Wasn't too healthy for the family, to be honest with you. We kind of survived that. And you know what? At the same time, I think there's seasons where it's just an everything to give God everything that you have. And we saw the church grow quite quickly, actually, in that season of time, and see people really come into that all-in commitment to God and to his house. And it's a beautiful thing when you're not the only one saying, God, I'll give you my everything. And there's a lot of people that say that but don't live it. And we just chose that we're going to live it. And that started with things like that. It started with just having a lot of people in our home.
Yep.
And also going.
I was a little resistant to that at first because I like my space, but
she likes a clean home too.
My clean home went out the door with
when you married me.
I was gonna say child number one, but I guess sure.
I was
when I married you.
So, but
it's all good.
But just having lots of people in our home, and actually Dion here is in the studio recording us right now, and he just said something like, what would happen if the whole church had people in their home?
Man.
And really that's Acts
That'd
chapter 2, isn't it? Acts chapter 2 was they would go to the temple and worship and pray and hear the word of God, but they would have people in their home and have communion together. And that's really the heart of home church, is that we would be home, we would have people in our home, and we would be the church in our home, but then also
that's where life happens.
Not forget to assemble as a body. And so anyways, we just live a little bit of a different life.
Yeah, we do. You don't do anything just like halfway or just a little bit. You're kind of the person that just goes all in. I think of
the crazy things you've done over the last 10 years, just a couple of them. You know, you did that one time you already said you went to all those small groups in like a couple weeks period of time, which is just insane to me. I don't know why anyone would do that, but you're just like, I want to do this. I want to get in. I want to know the people of the church. I want to just do this. So I was like, okay, go for it. And then, and that produced like so much fruit and just connection and life in the church. And then I think about the time you did the 24-hour shoot-a-thon or
shooting
free throws.
Yeah.
You were raising money for
basketball free throws for 24 hours straight.
And I was just going, what are you doing? Like, that's insane. Who does that? Yeah. I mean, who stays up for 24 hours when you're our age? And then who shoots free throws?
That is a really dumb thing to do.
24 hours. And then,
but
not only that, you like preached the next morning.
Yeah, I preached the next morning, and then
you got on a plane and went to Teen
Seattle.
Church.
That's
and
right.
You were part of the conference there for a week. So you literally didn't even have any downtime to like recover. You're just like, let's go.
Well, the ice bath, that was the best part of that.
Those were some fun moments.
You know, oftentimes when you feel, you know, an urge to do something, that was for a local homeless shelter that we were raising the money for, and for our bus ministry at the time.
Yeah.
And lunch program. And I think we raised like 56,000 or something like that. It was close to that.
It was pretty cool
number. And when you start something like that, first of all, you're like, well, am I going to raise any money? Like, what if I only raise like $100? Like, what if the only $100 I get is the $100 my wife gives me? Like, I literally have those type of thoughts. Like, I know my grandmother will give me $50 for this. And at that time too, like, let's be honest, like, I was out of shape.
Yes.
Like, out of shape is a nice term for what was going on at that moment. Yeah. And so I could probably use this, but my honest fear was that my arm would fall off. That was my honest fear, was like, if I shoot, like, I'm out of shape, and then I shoot free throws for 24 hours, I'm going to lose the ability to use my arm, and my arm is going to swing without any, like, it's going to be like a limp noodle on one side of my body. And thank God for friends. I had a friend named Justin Pilgrim. If you're listening, Justin, thank you. That came alongside of me, and he helped me work out. And I remember the first time that we actually went out to a field by our house, and you know, started doing push-ups and what are those terrible things? Burpees. Burpees are the worst.
Oh, those are the worst.
I've never done a burpee in my life, but soon it was almost like a vomity, you know?
Yeah.
Because I went from like just about burpees to vomities, like, you know, I'm like just holding in the vomit at the park there as we're doing these things, and then they running and all this. And, you know, out of it, actually one of the greatest things that came out of that was friendship with Justin and Cammie.
Yeah. She stayed up through the whole night too, and she was making you meals throughout the night so that you were nourished to keep going.
I mean, they taught me amazing. I learned how to work out through that, which is something that I needed.
I'm just going to put this out there. Your back muscles were amazing at that point.
Helped the marriage life too, folks.
Hello.
And and so anyhow,
I just made him really uncomfortable.
And so anyways, we you know, there's all this hard work to get to that point. Funny thing is, so we shot for the 23 hours.
Yeah.
And then on the 24th hour, actually your mom came to me and said, I'm going to give you, I think, $1 for every shot or something like that.
It was something.
50 cents or 10 cents.
Awesome.
And after 23 hours of shooting like crazy, I shot as many as I could in that last hour. And I think I made 300 and some baskets.
It's like the adrenaline just started going.
I was shooting the grandma shots. I was shooting the grannies. I think they're called granny shots between the legs. Shots, and then I had a jump shot, and I had my regular free throw, and I was shooting like crazy, and I was sweating like crazy, and raised that money.
Yeah, it was amazing
And it was an
to watch you
amazing
finish
day.
that out and just dig deep for the last hour
Get it done.
and get it done.
And then get into that cold
Get into the
bath.
ice bath after.
And get up the next day and preach the next day.
Yep.
Go to team church. And then there was the day that I walked into the Dream Center. And it was an interesting experience. I remember just literally walking through the door frame, and this heavy burden came on my shoulders. And I remember, as you know, we've walked through there several times. We're just going to have to pause it here. 1 second. Do you want to call him? We were supposed to be.
I just ended it.
Do you want to just text them?
You're the one who
Should I-
made.
So I just remember walking through the Dream Center, even walking through the doors, and all of a sudden just feeling the weight of what was going on at the Dream Center, and just feeling like I got to do something to help Pastor Matthew and help what's going on right there. And honestly, at that moment, I didn't know some of the challenges that they were facing financially. But maybe even, I didn't know if they were discouraged or didn't really have any clue, except for I just felt the weight. And I remember, as we've done many times, going through all the different floors of the Dream Center, hearing the amazing testimonies of people coming out of addictions and homeless families being rescued and single moms getting their education and getting back on their feet, and hearing all these. But the whole time, I can't get rid of this weight on my shoulders. And actually, you weren't with me on that trip.
No.
It was Mike Landry that was with me on that trip. And I remember that night just thinking, well, once I get to this church service, the weight will come off my shoulders. And going to the church service and the weight won't come off my shoulders. And in the middle of the night, waking up and just having the Lord speak to me saying, do what you can do.
Yep.
And deciding right then, I'm going to run a marathon. Now, you gotta understand.
I'm sorry. I still think it's one of the funniest things you've ever done.
It's crazy. Because number one, my first run when I got home, I literally ran up this little hill. Like, it was like not even half a kilometer.
Not even a hill.
And yeah, it wasn't even a hill. And then I walked home. I didn't even run home. I walked home. And came home, and I remember you were just like, so how far did you go? I'm like, well, I ran up the hill. And you're like, wow, this is 26.2 miles.
I didn't think you were going to do it, to be honest. I was like, well, he's going to give it his best shot. But like, even just watching you train the first couple of weeks, and it was tough slugging, like the first couple of weeks. I remember you just coming home and just being like, I don't know if I can do this.
It was so hard. I was running like, a mile. And it was like that's all I could do.
And then it's like, we're in Alberta. So.
Well, at that time.
At that time, right.
Like,
it was still
like
summer.
April or something like that. But I started. And then what I didn't realize was, like, I had some major physical conditions that I didn't think about before I said yes. It's so much similar to the call of God on your life when you say yes to God. You don't realize what you're going to have to go through.
Yeah.
And so when I was about 5 years old, I was with my dad, and he was putting my grandma's cement walkway into her house. And there was one of those square cement blocks that was up against a shovel. And I was standing there, and one of my buddies ran by the shovel, knocked the shovel, and this big cement block came back and splat right on my big toe. And so my big toe is...
It's a sight.
It's a sight to see. It is beautiful...
It's gorgeous.
I should actually do like some Instagrams.
Let's not.
I should draw some
Let's
faces on my big toe and make up some stories. Anyhow.
Move on.
Literally, I don't even have like hinges in my toes. Or what are those called, hinges? What are they called?
I can't even.
Dion, what are those things called? Like joints. Yeah, joints. I don't even have joints in my big toe. And And so welcome to our world, everyone. And so I don't have joints in my big toe. When I was 13, I was playing football in the snow. My foot went in a gopher hole, and
nasty.
I got tackled, and my foot was literally sideways.
Gross.
And so I had to get a surgery where they put a pin up my leg. And so here I am, not even thinking about these things that could hinder someone running a marathon.
Yeah.
And so I started to train, and it wasn't that long until my Achilles was actually pulling on the bottom of my heel. And I had to stop running, had to go into the pool. And that happened at least twice really well.
Yeah.
I had to go to the chiropractor a few times a week because I found out that basically all the weight on one side of my body was really being distributed. I don't even stand on one leg. I was putting
Yeah, you do. I can see it when you preach.
Yeah. So just watch for that, people from home church, that I'm standing on one-legged preacher. And so long story short, it was quite the journey, 9-month journey of getting myself from 0 miles to 26.2 miles.
Yeah, and then January you got bronchitis.
Got bronchitis in January.
I had to stop training for a couple weeks.
It was a full month.
It was a full month. Wow.
And I had to run in March and then get myself back to run enough.
It was an uphill battle.
And the miracle of it was like the last one, I knew my grandma would give me $50 and you'd give me $100. But I had no idea how much money we would raise. We ended up raising almost $250,000. I think it was $244,000.
That's amazing.
For the LA Dream Center. And then you get to the run, and you've done all this training through minus 15 was about the coldest I'd run indoors, but I'd run outdoors. I'd run indoors at this rink around this skating rink.
Penhold.
And, it was like, 10 miles was like 10 times around this rink, and I had to run like 18 miles.
Getting dizzy after a while.
And it was so boring. Like I'd do it on my day off and be like, 4.5 hours of running. And then we get to the run. And I had some wonderful friends run with me, Josh Weeb, Justine Walker, and Nick Walker, and Hillary Worley. And so we're getting ready to run, and they're supposed to meet me there at a certain time, and they don't. But there's this man that I meet, and we start talking, and he says, I've tried to run this 6 times in a row, but I've never got done with running this marathon. And so I'm like, well, today's your day. You're going to run it. And at the same time, in my mind, I'm like, if this guy's done it for 6 times, there's no way I'm going to do it. But I start running, and we start running the marathon, and I get to the 18th mile, and I saw you and the kids.
Yeah.
On the 18th mile.
Crazy. I was so proud of you.
And
that you even made it like 18 miles. Like, I can't do that.
Up and down the LA streets in the heat.
Yeah.
And it was pretty awesome. Pastor Matthew ran the first half of the marathon with me. And then I got to the 20th mile, which goes straight uphill. And then it goes to this area called Brentwood, which is this beautiful area with green grass on both sides of the roads. And literally people just start like exiting the race. They literally start just like wandering to the left and running into the grass. And so this man that I had talked to was laying on the grass, hands and legs spread out. I'm like, hey, bud, how you doing? You going to finish the race? Not this time, Pastor Jay. And it just makes you think, it'd be so easy to quit now, Beck.
Yep.
It'd be so easy to find a greener pasture and just quit the race. But Paul said, I've fought the good fight of faith. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. And so we'll kind of end this podcast here that, in running these marathons and doing these crazy things that God calls us to in a funny way, because for me, that marathon was actually more about prayer. It was hours of running that I prayed for Pastor Matthew.
Yeah.
And I believe God assigned me to him for that year to pray for him and to see the Dream Center move forward. It's a powerful thing to serve another man of God. in another ministry. And it was an honor to do that. But thinking about 10 years, and you go 26.2 miles, but maybe we're only at our 10th mile. And God's got so much more for us. And maybe you're discouraged today listening to this, and you go, man, I'm discouraged right now. I feel like being that guy that would just like ditch out of the race and spread all four limbs as wide as possible on a nice piece of grass and just quit serving God and quit my ministry. I just want to tell you, it is worth finishing the race. Paul talks about the medal of gold, the crown of gold that we'll receive. And I'll tell you, there was nothing like one of the best experiences of my life was crossing that finish line and receiving that medal. Because it was like, wow, I did 26.2 miles and raised all this wonderful money for the Dream Center for all the people that will be helped and reached, and from homeless people that would be reached to people coming out of addictions, out of sex trafficking, out of all this stuff. But it was like, wow, I finished the race. And for Becca and I, we're just praying as we celebrate 10 years that God will do more things in this next 10 miles, in these next 16.2 miles.
Yep.
However
in it for the long haul.
However many years God calls us. And if you're in this race, I want to encourage you to hold on, keep going, keep running. And man, we could get into so many different stories of it, but it's wonderful to run with people.
Yep.
The Nicks and the Joshes and Justines and Hillarys helped me to finish that race. And I just pray that God would give you everything that you need to finish the race God has called you to. And this is an all-in life back. Like it was all in back 10 years ago, all in today.
Yep. And there's no other way to live.
The best is yet to come. We love Jesus and love his house. So thank you so much for listening to this today as we just talked about all in. And we're excited about what God's going to do in the next 10 years and beyond in our church, because the best is yet to come. So love you and bless you today. Hope you enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for listening to the Home Church podcast today. We hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you press subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you'd like, we'd love for you to rate and review our podcast so that other people can hear the impactful message that you just heard.